Hey guys, happy Friday. Shag Pesach Sameach for those of you who are celebrating Passover. Hello from South Florida. My name is Leonella Cook, and today it's going to be a little bit different. Hopefully, we got some eyeballs up here and I can get going. But today we're going to talk about brushing and rolling and using a sponge brush for the high performance LuxeLacquer. And before we do that, I guess I will show you a couple different finishes that we have going on here. Well, actually, before we get started, hey, okay, we got some eyeballs. Awesome. And I want you guys to ask questions. Today is going to be a little more relaxed than normal. It's not like a very specific finish we're trying to achieve. What we're talking about is technique. And so before all of that craziness, I am a milk painter. So for me, I love the imperfection. So it is messy and it's taking off paint, while LuxeLacquer is a very finished perfection finish. So for me, it was a giant learning curve. Now, I know some of my fellow students and some of my colleagues, I know some that will be excellent with this finish. If you have a hard time taking paint off or distressing or antiquing, then this is absolutely right up your alley. Jan, Tamara, you guys, this is a great finish. And the thing is, for me, this type of finish is a challenge. So I always tell anybody I work with or that I'm teaching that if it's hard for you, then go ahead and make the best at it. Whatever you're worst at, make that, and you'll become a stronger painter. It doesn't matter if you painted for 30 years. This is a different kind of paint. So, but with that being said, take a deep breath. Have forgiveness for yourself, give yourself some grace, learn to love the process, and don't be painting milk paint and doing Lux at the same time. Do a series of Lux, then come back and do milk paint. Because it's like going to an English class and then sitting in a math class and you're just not in the right mindset. So let's get our mind set. Today is about perfection finish and what we need to do to achieve that perfect gloss finish. So that being said, we're going to talk about our roller. We're going to use high density roller. I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to brush it, and we are going to use a foam brush. And if, I know some of you guys want to spray or aspire to spray. If you are going to learn, this is the best way to learn. I think if you can get this down by brushing and understanding the process, that when you get to that sprayer, it's old hat. It's super easy because you're comfortable with the paint. You're comfortable with the process. And brushing is by far harder than spraying. So if you get this technique down, and it's going to take practice, I'm not going to lie, but again, take a breath. Practice makes perfect, and that's really what today is about. So I'm going to show you where we're going to start. I'm going to stand up. It's been a long morning. Okay, so we're going to start with just really basic wood, just like this, and then we're going to move to, I've done some pre-prep. So here's one that has one coat of the primer. And then here is 2 coats of primer. And these are all brushed. So those are brushed. And then I'm going to show you the difference between a brushed coat and that's rolled and tipped off with a foam brush. And I'll talk about tipping too. And then I'm going to show you the final product in 2 different, so this is a box I did that you guys saw in the promo. I took it apart. So this is a brushed final, and it's still, and it's only 1 coat. That's the kicker. 1 coat of primer in here. Now this is the top. This is 2 coats of primer. This is rolled. This is tipped with a sponge brush. Okay? Do you see it's such a difference, night and day difference of what 2 coats of primer, I know you guys are gonna kill me, 2 coats of primer really does to your finish. So that being said, we're gonna talk about paint right now. Well, first, we should start with primer. Let's start with primer in the beginning. But make sure if you guys have any questions, again, be sure to ask them. But before we get into the primer, let's talk about what you need to brush and do a really adequate job to really make your brushing successful. You're going to need sandpaper for the first to get that surface ready. You're going to use 200 grit sandpaper. And then as you proceed into those pigment layers and the final layers, I want you guys to start using 400. Don't use any wet dry sandpaper. This is an oil-based finish. Let's not mix paint base, okay? You're gonna need stir sticks, lots of them. You're gonna need tack cloths. These are really, really important. I'm gonna talk about a method that I use that I constantly repeat in my head as I go through each level. So tack cloths really important. Our nylon brush is your option. Amy Howard has a really nice dense, because I tried it with the Home Depot one and it was too loose and it didn't pull the paint correctly. High density foam roller. And we'll talk about Penetrol, which is an oil-based additive. And we're going to tell you the difference between an additive and a solvent. Mineral spirits is a solvent. So think about mineral spirits. It solves the problem of the paint being so thick. We're thinning, solving the problem. An additive, this is a paint conditioner, not the same thing. They're not synonymous. It doesn't change the viscosity of the paint. It changes the flow of the paint. So think about you condition your hair, you're softening your hair, you're softening the paint, you're conditioning the paint to flow. So I'll tell you little tips and tricks about that stuff, especially when you're coming into light colors. But let's keep going with what we need. We need, and you're going to need this for spraying. Next week, we're going to talk about spraying. It's going to get really technical, and I'm going to take you back in my warehouse where I will do a live in the warehouse. But today we are inside in my studio. So you want to get a whole sleeve of these, and then don't just leave them out in your studio or your home or your garage. Keep them in a Ziploc bag. It's really important that you keep all your tools, all your surfaces super clean. So I am all about reduce, reuse, recycle. And so I use this nasty, nasty paint, right? But I don't like the liners. And sometimes I don't know if I used an oil in it or, that's the milk painter in me. But what you can do is use aluminum foil and get the heavy duty kind, and you can just make your own liner. Super easy to clean up, toss away, less waste in that landfill, and you can continue to reuse these old pieces. You're going to need a dust mask for when you are sanding. It's really important that we're not breathing this stuff in. It is toxic. It's not good for your lungs. Let's see, we'll need mixing cups. Make sure, or lidded cups is actually the best way to do this, but because I'm doing a live, I have these. I do these for when I'm brushing. And let's see, anything else I could possibly, oh, yes. I want you to get 2 different color rags. And the reason I'm saying 2 different colors, so in my mind, I know the gray will be the cleaning, like as I go, and then that orange is really for as I get into those final finishes. I try to use different colors so I know where I'm at, because you could end up doing 4 different projects at one time, and you want to make sure everything is great. You will need gloves, and you will need a mask, and it's a respirated mask, N95. You want to make sure it's for gases. You want to work in a open, ventilated area. You don't want to work where there are children or old elderly people, anybody with asthma. You really, you know, if like I'm fortunate, I have a warehouse that I work in that has 18-foot ceilings. So, you know, it's just, and I have good ventilation in there. So it's just really important that you are not exposing anybody else to these gases. I also use this, and we'll talk more about this in spraying next week. It's a humidity gauge. These are really helpful, especially when you live in a humid climate or when you go through periods of rain. I live in South Florida, so we tend to have torrent of rain and unexpectedly, so I need to adjust the humidity in my spaces because of our paint. And we're going to get into that too. I'll talk about how humidity affects the paint. So first things first, I guess we'll just go ahead and it's kind of awkward. We're going to talk about, it's weird to show a lacquer because it is time consuming. And so as I talk, ask questions, I'm just going to say it's really important that time, be patient. This is one of those finishes where you can't rush it. There is no rushing. There is no hair dryer. You are at the mercy of the weather, your temperature, your humidity, and the thickness of this paint. And how you decide to thin it is key, okay? So I'm going to turn you down. I am going to put on a dust mask. I might not, just because I want you guys to hear me, but here we go. I'm going to bring you down here. So before you even begin, your workspace is critical to the success of this paint. If you're working in a warehouse or if you're working in your garage, I recommend you vacuum the floor and then go ahead and wet mop it. And the reason I'm saying that is for dust. So it's really important that we control the dust, we control the environment. And if you mop your floor the night before you go to paint in the morning, you are good to go. All right, and it's even more critical. So I'm setting you up for success as you go into, if you have ambitions to paint with a sprayer, because that is really important for spraying. But if you're doing small things, go ahead and wipe down your surface with a wet rag, and now you're ready to go. I cannot stress enough to you, guys, you have to learn to love to clean and sand and clean. And sand and clean and sand and clean. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to wipe off our surface with, and normally I would use clean slate, but I'm actually finding that I am having a little bit better with just sticking with one solvent, and that's mineral spirits. So go ahead, wipe down your surface really well before you sand. And the reason why I'm saying is clean before you sand, because now you're going to put your sandpaper onto your piece and you're going to spread whatever was all over it everywhere. And now it's also gunked up into your sandpaper. So save yourself a little headache. Thoroughly clean your piece. What is really important with LuxeLacquer is you cannot hide your surface. If you want a flawless finish, you must have a flawless base. If you do the work in the front, the work in the end is so much easier. So do the work in the front. Fills, sand all the imperfections out. So we're really just going to sand here. This paint doesn't hide. It looks thick. It looks thick. It looks like you could hide imperfections. You cannot. Gloss paint will show every single little thing. So I had to get really disciplined about this. And it's just, it's a skill set that's really important. And I think it will actually improve in your other styles and techniques in painting, that you really focus on cleaning, sanding, and don't be shy about it. I mean, you know, this is a sample board, but this would not be okay. So like really getting that down, sanding, sanding, sanding. Now that you're done with that, I'm not going to reuse that sandpaper. I'm actually going to chuck it. And then we want to try to have a vacuum. It's the best way to actually get all this dust up. And we're just going to if your piece has really carved pieces, maybe some compressed air is good to do, but otherwise really vacuuming. So it's sand, vacuum, tack, mineral spirits. Sand, vacuum, tack, mineral spirits. Wipe it down. And so now tack cloth is here. And you're going to repeat this process through every single layer. And really that's where the problems stem from. It's either your paint was too thick, or you didn't do the correct process in getting your surface correctly done. So this is where the mistakes happen. So we're open this up, and if it's a small piece, guys, cut these in half. Don't waste. That way, because it can add up. But remember, you can also build that into your piece. So we're wiping it down really good. Are we still seeing dust? We're going to do a mineral spirits wipe. We're going to wipe it down with mineral spirits. And are we getting color still coming up? Really wiping it down. So typically, I would say I would have to sand this again. If you really want a mirror perfect finish, I would be sanding this again. But for sake of time and moving on, and since I already have panels prepared, I will just go with this. All right, so we're gonna start getting ready to do our primer. I know, guys, when you open this primer, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so thick. Well, there's a reason why this primer is super thick. It is a building primer. So this is an absolute system. You cannot use LuxeLacquer and have a perfect finish and not use a primer. I'm sorry. I want to see it if you've done it. I would love to see it. I'm sure you could with multiple top coats, which could end up being very expensive. But you need a primer with this stuff. So I poured out some the other day so you guys can see it. Oop. I need to move this guy out. Hold on one sec. So here is the primer, and you see it's pretty viscous. It's got a pretty thick, Actually, it's even thicker in the can. This is actually already thinned with 1 tablespoon. So this is also another really key component. I'm going to stop for a second. I want you guys to have a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to write down how much you're putting in your paint. So say we're going to work with 2 cups of primer. How much mineral spirits? Because there is no exact science, and the reason I'm saying no exact science, it's just usually generalities, and that's why you probably get frustrated with people when you're asking, how do I do this? Because every environment is different. If you live in Texas and if you live in New York or New Hampshire, it's not going to be the same environment, and this oil paint will react differently. So you're going to have to kind of play around with it. But we're always going to filter. This removes any, especially as you get into those top layers, guys, filter, filter, filter. Every single layer, you must filter your paint, because that's where all those surfactants, either from your brush or from the air, get into your paint, and you get frustrated because you see nibs, and that is all just dust, essentially. So we're letting that paint strain. Now, when you're for the primer, I say use Penetrol. I say use mineral spirits. The only time, this is a tip, is when you are doing white or light colored paints, you want to kind of refrain a little bit from the penetrol because it will yellow the paint, especially if you're working with a white or like a baby blue. Ask me how I know. I did a dresser that just didn't, and I had to redo it. So we're going to do one half with I'm going to show you this one half with this brush and then the other half with the roller. And then you could see the difference. Or, okay, yeah. So I thinned, we are at about, this was, I'm trying to see where the paint is. This I had at 1 cup last night, and I thinned it with 2 tablespoons of mineral spirits. And now here's the thing about mineral spirits, it's a solvent. So solvents evaporate in the air over time, while your penetrol does not. It's an additive, so it doesn't evaporate. So we have to be mindful that if this is now the second day you're working with this primer or the third, that you might have to rethin it too. So what we're looking for is you're starting from one end and you're going to pull across. And what you want is you really want that full coverage. You don't, and the least amount of times that you can touch this paint, the better. It doesn't like to be touched a ton. And so what you can do once you get your coverage, you're going to take the tip of the brush and we're just going to gently pull across. The most important thing about these two, this type of paint, thin multiple coats. I can't stress that enough. Thin multiple coats of your primer, thin multiple coats of your top color pigment. And the reason why I'm saying that, and if you miss something, get it in the next pass. Don't continue to touch this paint. It doesn't like it. It actually will get upset. And you can tip too with a foam, and I'm going to show you how to do that with the foam roller. So as you can see, there is some roping in that. So for me, I'm thinking I would adjust the penetrol quantity in this, because I when you start to see roping, that's when you want to add the paint conditioner. If you've already maximized how much mineral spirits you've put in, then you can add in your penetrol afterwards. And when you're mixing these paints, when you add in, you want to mix for a minimum of 3 minutes with mineral spirits and a minimum of 3 minutes with your penetrol to make sure everything is fully incorporated. So now I'm going to set up a roller. We're going to do the other side with a roller. Guys, I'm sorry it's going to go long today, but I really want to make sure that you guys feel comfortable with this and we're not rushing. This is not, this is something that really takes time. It takes practice, and you can make so much money with this paint if you can master it. I mean, I go to the paint store and all these old guys are talking and they're like, oh, I can't figure out fine paints of Europe or this LuxeLacquer stuff. And well, you have yourself a whole group of people to market to if you put in the practice to figure out this paint. I promise you it will pay off. All right. So for the roller, I am going to take my paint. I'm going to put it into the pan. And I always have a bucket of mineral spirits for my brushes. I don't want them getting airtime, so they're not going to get stiff and then really have nice ropey paint if I can't get to cleaning it immediately and wiping it. Okay, so I put my roller on. Let's wipe my hands. So for rolling, this is really important, guys. It's going to come out looking bubbly. I know. I've seen some folks roll it. So and again, same thing, especially if you're doing the top colors, you don't want to roll that much. Just have coverage. Then you're going to take your foam brush here. You're going to tip just a little bit into that paint, dab off. We're going to come to the edge, and you're just going to easily, just gently, so gently, not a lot of pressure, pulling across the surface. Nice and easy. Okay. Now, again, this is the very first coat of primer. And I definitely feel the need to add some Penetrol to that. So we're going to do that for that second layer on another board. Okay. All right. So I have, making a mess. Okay. So I'm going to use a bigger surface for you guys to see. So say this is one coat. So our process is sand, vacuum, tack. Same thing again, sand, vacuum, tack. Now, if you're sanding and you're vacuuming, do not have your open paint. It's all going to be contaminated. So move your paint out of the way, move the area. Don't be in the same space. Make sure, nothing can be contaminated here. And so again, we got to sand, vacuum, tack. I mean, it's just really that process of being consistent. And I suggest 2 coats of primer. Okay. And now going across your surface. And here's some tips and tricks for any of you who want some more advanced stuff. Be really fragile and careful on those edges. You want to go really gentle. It's hard to build up a finish when you have already exposed your edge. So really focusing on that nice flat surface and then being really ginger and gentle around those edges because you don't want to lose too much paint. It's hard to build up at the edge. And you don't want to leave too much paint on because that's a tendency where any wrinkling happens. It's because the paint is too thick on your edge. So going all the way around, we're sanding. I actually already sanded this, so I don't want to take off too much of the primer. And then we're going to vacuum. Same thing as before. We're going to vacuum our surface. We're going to vacuum the area. See how I'm using this? This is what we want to get. To make sure we're getting everything up and off. Vacuum, vacuum, vacuum. Now your surface is acceptable. I want you to take that dry cloth. We're just gonna, we gotta tack, sorry. See, I gotta repeat it, tack, kind of tack. And so now we're gonna tack our surface. Let's see if we got anything off. Nope. And you're really looking at your tack cloth, especially as you get into pigment colors, really good practice. What's coming off on this tack cloth? If there is coming off, definitely we're still gonna wipe down with mineral spirits in between each layer. Here we are. We're still in the primer phase, so I'm still using my blue or my gray, sorry, colorblind. And really cleaning off any surfactants that could wrinkle up that primer. And I want you to see the difference of this. See how pretty? And I'm happy. This is a pine box, guys. So getting really happy with the way that's already coming out. I'm gonna go ahead and roll these. And so less is more with this paint, guys. So let's see if I can thin my layer and not use as much paint than having to add any additive, because you really don't want to add anything to it, too much to it. So really rolling it out and going through all the way to the edge. Now, if you're doing curved pieces, definitely use this, your tip brush and see, did I make an edge here? Possibly. So we're going to run that brush here. Tipping the edge here. We're going to pull from the very edge all the way down. Gently. Yeah, I don't like actually. And so here's something that's really neat. This paint is amazing. It's actually pretty forgiving, especially as you get into your pigments. And so that's going to be your second coat of primer. You're going to come back, move this to the side, and dry times for this, guys. The primer dries a little bit faster than those clear colors, and it's the more you add into this paint, the longer it's going to take for your paint to dry. It's an extender, it's a conditioner, it will extend the paint dry time. And you need to be careful because the top of, that's why you don't want to do thick paint, because the top of the paint will dry so quickly that you end up with wrinkling because there's still wet paint underneath. So thin, multiple layers of paint, of primer, really thin, taking your time, making sure everything is completely dry. You're going to test the surface. If it's still mushy, you need more time. I'm sorry. The humidity, you can check your humidity. Where is your humidity? How much solvent? Check your notes. How much solvent or how much penetrol did you put into it? And then proceed to that next level. If it was too much, adjust for that next level. Wait till it dries. If there's imperfections, wait till it dries. You can remove the imperfections with sanding. So this is the second coat, guys, and I want to kind of show you up close. You follow these steps, you're really going to end up, and I'm just going to wipe this, even though I'm going out of order. I just want to show you. Do you see? This is 2 coats of primer. This is going to be the base. This is going to make for a beautiful gloss finish. This is what I was working with, guys. You're never going to know that this was a junk piece of wood. Same process you would do. Yeah, that was what was underneath before. And look at this. We're going to get a really gorgeous gloss finish in that, okay? So again, I know it sounds redundant, but and then, you know, I'm going to show, we'll do the brush again so I can show you, so we can tweak. I'll show you how I'll tweak it, the paint to lay a little more flat, wiping my brush off to get it a little more flat. I know you guys are wanting to see the process more and understanding it. I get it. Whew. And I wish I had a mask on. This is irritating my throat. All right. I'm going to move this out of the way really quick. Sorry, it's very messy. You want to make, then this is really important, and it makes cleanup so much easier with an oil paint that you are clean as you go. So I hate it because I am like a milk painter and it's very frustrating, but it's also really great because it makes me more disciplined. And I need discipline sometimes. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over with this sample base so you guys can see. Again, I want you to pay attention to what you're adding. So now we're roughly at a 1/2 cup of paint. I wouldn't add any more than like 1/4 teaspoon. And you just start small because you can't go back, obviously. So we're just gonna pour. I'm just gonna add a little bit in. And do you see how it reacts with the paint immediately? So here, where's my stir sticks? We have to mix. We are going to mix, mix, mix. And you're going to notice the consistency of the paint changes. It's silkier, it's smoother. It doesn't change the viscosity, but it changes the actual characteristics of the paint, the flowability of the paint. And you know, as we talk next week about spraying, it also adds more VOC. And that is why these paints are so thick. You can't, and why the recommendations are usually so low. You can't tell people to add more VOC, you know, they're not gonna, it's just a mess. And in Europe, they have, this is why brushing is actually more common than spraying in Europe. You need permits and you pay taxes, and so we are lucky. All right, so brushing, yes. Since we already did this one, I'm gonna go here. We're gonna vacuum it quick. We're gonna tack it. And then we tack, 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 remember? Sand, vacuum, tack, mineral spirits. That order, guys. Write it down, memorize it, repeat, repeat, repeat. And I promise you, I know you're gonna be mad at me at first, but I really promise that you're gonna see such a difference in your finish. I promise. Whatever you've been doing, it will change it 100%. if you're struggling with this. So we've done it again, and now, whew. And guys, this is the same exact process that you would do for those top layers. Really thin coats. We don't want to overwork the paint. We just want it to come out of the brush nice and easy. And then you're come back and tip it, which means using that edge, the fine edge, instead of the body of the brush to smooth out your paint. Again, working with a wet edge as you go to that next layer. And we want to bring the paint across as much in one stroke as you can. We don't want to flood the surface. Remember, thin coats are better. Thin coats are better. Say that to yourself. It's not one step. It's not enamel. This is a different kind of paint, guys. And it's just going to take a little practice. And you'll start to feel when, okay, I can't touch it anymore. You will know the difference. And if you do, you'll probably get wrinkling in your paint, and you'll get some you know, it will dry faster on the top than in the bottom, and then you will be mad at me. But here we go. So there, and then it will level, self-level, let it level. Paint is going to change. Try not to create dust and surfactants around it. I don't know. Do you guys want to see any? Do you have any questions? Do you want me to do a top coat? It's up to you. Anybody? Do we have any comments? I can't see you. Yeah, I'm trying to see. What grit sandpaper are you using? Oh, whoop, sorry. I am using 200 for the primer, and I'm using 400 for our top coat colors. So, sorry, it is really sunny and hot in this front room. So 200 and then 400. Do you guys have any other questions? We have a blog post created with supplies. That was good. I took notes. Honestly, guys, same process into that top coat. Same exact. And I will show you the difference between it again. So here's your difference. I know I showed it in the beginning. This is 2 coats of primer, sanded. And I did do a brushing, and then I tipped it with that foam brush, and it came out really nice. I just got it dirty. This is just 1 coat of primer and just brushing, no tipping. And, you know, but I'm still using the same method of sand. There is a little bit of roping. You could tell it's hand painted, but you do notice the difference. And then here, this is the same. I did another one just so I could be consistent and show you, but that's a final on this wood. Okay. I like the foam roller. I like the foam roller for primer. I don't necessarily like the foam roller for the top coat. You can absolutely do it. But you have to definitely make sure that you are using that foam brush to tip out all those bubbles as you're foam rolling. So, I don't know. If you guys have anything else, oh wait, does the penetrol go in the, hold on, what are you saying? Does the penetrol go away? Yeah, so you can put penetrol in your paint. You can put penetrol in your primer, but you want to do mineral spirits first. So again, mineral spirits thins your paint. See how that feels. See how that looks, and test it to see how it flows. If it's still roping really heavy, now you can add your penetrol. And you're going to add a little bit at a time, guys. And every time you add something to your paint, you must mix for a minimum of 2 to 3 minutes. Don't just dump it in there and then start painting, because you haven't mixed in everything really well. Let's see what else. I can't really see these comments. Anybody else? How do you know how much penetrol and mineral? So you don't. You know the limits. The limits are on the paint can, And for brushing, it's not as critical as it is for spraying. The more mineral spirits that you add to a gloss paint, you will dull down the finish. So don't go over. Usually the limit's usually 20 to 30% is the limit. I would say 30% for spraying, 20% for painting. So if you're doing 1 cup, and we're working in small quantities, we're not doing a gallon, so you're not dumping a whole bottle of Penetrol in. So if you're working in a cup, it would be no more than 20% of your cup, of your with mineral spirits, and then go from there. Don't just start, because the more additives you add to a paint, you will change the chemical makeup of the paint. You will reduce the gloss and the sheen of the paint. You will reduce the hardiness of your paint, because and LuxeLacquer is such a hardy paint. I have and I'll show it to you guys when we spray next week. I have an entryway table here, and I have knocked into it I don't know how many times, and it doesn't chip. So really working on trying to work at the best possible level while adding the least amount of chemical. So, and it's going to take playing and taking notes, and it's fun, guys. Don't be afraid to sand. You know what? If you get to this point, and this is totally going to happen right here for me. I'm not happy with this. This is not perfect. I will sand this down, and I'm going to sand it down to the point where it is so smooth that obviously it's not going to be glossy anymore, but I'm going to sand it down so I can no longer see the ridge, that I no longer see the roping. And I'm going to force it to become more like this one. Okay. So it's just a matter of how perfect do you want this? And you can do this on metal, guys. This is a beautiful finish. You could take something that's just junk and laminate and building that base of the primer, and then doing your top coats the same way. It will look like $1 million. I kid you not. So I'm confused. You're mixing mineral spirits in the primer. Oh, hold on. Penetrol is not required. Penetrol is not required, guys. Mineral spirits to thin it. When you open this paint, it is so thick. If you guys have not opened it, there's a reason for that. Because if the manufacturer adds, because mineral spirits is a VOC, Penetrol is a VOC. They emit more VOC. Even if they're low VOC, it changes the VOC limits of a paint, especially when you get to spraying. So this paint is thick. You will need to thin it, especially when you're looking at the primer. Now, here's a tip for you cold folks. If you have a warmer, like a wax melt warmer, you can warm some water and you will sit your paint in there for 1 hour after you've reached, I think it's 180 degrees in that water. Let it sit, because a warm paint will move better for you in cold climates. I wish. But yeah, Penetrol is optional. It's not, you don't have to. It's if it needs it. If your paint is roping, if it's not pulling and you've already thinned it, then you add that Penetrol. Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Anybody? Hold on. Sorry, guys. Clean slate or mineral spirits? I mean, you can clean the initial with the clean slate, but as you're going to, just for consistency purposes, I would use mineral spirits for consistency. What about when you're spraying? So, guys, come back. I know this went super long. I'm really sorry. It's just so much information. I was going to do the spraying and the brushing in one day, but we're actually going to do spraying next week. I will take you to inside my warehouse. I will show you my system, my setup, and I will actually spray a piece with you live, and you can watch me do it. And it will be the same thing. You guys can ask questions. I will just actually, because now you know all of this information, now we're going to take this information and your knowledge, what you learned here, and now we're going to translate it into spraying. So this is the fundamentals. This is understanding the paint. This is understanding the process and what it requires to get to that perfection level. And now I'm going to take you from here and I'm going to take you out there and I'm going to show you how to apply that in with a sprayer. Okay, guys? And I'm going to do 3 different sprayers. One is a Cadillac, one is a smart car, one or Ford Fiesta, and one is like whatever your dad gave you from the 1980s. So it'll be cool. I really look forward to you guys. I hope if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. There will be a blog on this. There is some video. It's just really hard as these levels, but dry time is critical. Cleanliness is critical. Cleaning, layering that paint, you got this. You got this. So get pumped, make a ton of money, and I love you guys. I'll see you next week. Mwah. Ciao.